What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What Studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote right there. And maybe you can have me entertaining you at your next event. Let me entertain you. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Let's learn some stuff right here on the program. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Thursday, April 18th, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Trump threatens to adjourn Congress to make recess appointments. President Trump threatened Wednesday to exercise a never-used presidential power and adjourn Congress so he can make recess appointments to fill judicial vacancies and administration jobs without Senate approval. The House and Senate have stopped doing business due to the coronavirus pandemic, but the Senate has continued brief so-called pro forma sessions every 2 days, a common practice used to prevent presidents from making recess appointments. Trump slammed the practice, calling it, quote, a scam, end quote, and, quote, dereliction of duty, end quote, that was hampering his administration's response to the coronavirus crisis. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, office said he had, quote, pledged to find ways to confirm nominees considered mission critical to the COVID-19 pandemic, end quote, but that under Senate rules, he needed consent from Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York. This is according to the New York Times. Number 2, Elizabeth Warren endorses Joe Biden for president. Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat, Massachusetts, became the last of Joe Biden's leading primary season rivals to endorse the former vice president ahead of the November presidential election. Warren battled Senator Bernie Sanders, Independent Vermont, for the support of the party's progressive wing during the primaries and dropped out after falling behind Sanders, who recently dropped out and this week also announced his support for Biden. Quote, in this moment of crisis, it's more important than ever that the next president restores Americans' faith in good, effective government, end quote, Warren said. Biden, quote, knows that a government run with integrity, competence, and heart will save lives and save livelihoods, end quote, Warren said, quote, and we can't afford to let Donald Trump continue to endanger the lives and livelihoods of every American, end quote. Biden tweeted that he was, quote, proud to have the fiercest of fighters, Senator Warren, on my side, end quote. This is according to CNN. Number 3, Cuomo orders New Yorkers to wear masks when social distancing is impossible. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, Democrat, on Wednesday ordered everyone in the state to wear face coverings in public if there's any danger they won't be able to observe social distancing to help contain the coronavirus outbreak. Cuomo's executive order takes effect after a 3-day grace period. Cuomo said the state, which has more than a third of the nation's more than 600,000 confirmed COVID-19 coronavirus cases, was moving towards slowly reopening businesses in what will become the, quote, new normal, end quote. Quote, where we're going, it's not a reopening in that we're going to reopen what was, we're going to a different place, end quote, Cuomo said. The governor added that there would be no penalties, quote, for now, end quote, but he expected citizens to enforce the policy by saying to anyone uncovered, quote, where's your mask, buddy? End quote. This is according to CNBC. Number 4, governors in some states aim to reopen economies May 1st. Governors of 20 states that have been spared the worst of the coronavirus pandemic are looking at starting to reopen their economies around May 1st, a top health official said Wednesday. Quote, there are a number of states, 20 states, that really have had limited impact from it. So I think we will see some states that are, the governors feel that they're ready we're poised to assist them with that reopening, end quote. Robert Redfield, director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, told ABC's Good Morning America. President Trump said Wednesday that the U.S. had passed the peak for new coronavirus cases and that on Thursday he would unveil new federal guidelines for reopening the country slowly. Leading federal public health officials have warned that restarting businesses and easing lockdowns too soon could spark more infections. This is according to Reuters and CNN. Number 5, WHO leaders call Trump's criticism of coronavirus response unfair. World Health Organization leaders on Wednesday objected to President Trump's decision to suspend U.S. funding of the United Nations agency pending a review of its handling of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. WHO leaders noted that they, quote, alerted the world, end quote, to the virus outbreak in China in early January. Former President Jimmy Carter, who said he was, quote, distressed, end quote, by the news of Trump's decision, saying, quote, WHO is the only international organization capable of leading the effort to control the virus, end quote. Philanthropist Bill Gates said defunding the organization is, quote, as dangerous as it sounds, end quote. American Medical Association President Patrice Harris called Trump's move a, quote, dangerous step in the wrong direction, end quote. This is according to NPR and Axios. Number 6, China denies report it hid coronavirus outbreak for 6 crucial days. China on Wednesday denied hiding early warnings of the coronavirus outbreak after the Associated Press published a report saying Beijing delayed announcing the threat for 6 crucial days. There was compelling evidence by late December that the new coronavirus in Wuhan, China, was spreading from person to person. But Chinese officials didn't take the threat of a significant outbreak seriously until the coronavirus was detected in Thailand on January 13th, AP reported, citing leaked internal documents. Top officials in Beijing started secretly preparing for a pandemic on January 14th as the virus spread silently until President Xi Jinping issued a public warning on January 20th. Over those 6 days of silence, more than 3,000 people were infected with the coronavirus, and Wuhan hosted a banquet for tens of thousands of people. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 7, retail sales plunged by 8.7% in March. The Commerce Department said Wednesday that the retail sales dropped by 8.7% in March, the biggest decline since the data started being tracked in 1992. In February, retail sales fell a revised 0.4%. The March drop was worse than the 8% decline economists were expecting due to the widespread business closures and slowdowns under, quote, stay-at-home, end quote, policies imposed to curb spreading of the coronavirus. Previously, the biggest monthly decline in retail sales was in the fall of 2008, when there was a drop of almost 4%. CNN's Julia Chatterley warned that since most non-essential businesses didn't start shutting down until halfway through the month, quote, as bad as this March number is, April is going to be worse, end quote. This is according to Reuters and the New York Times. Number 8, U.S. Navy says Iranian vessels came dangerously close to American ships. The U.S. Navy said that Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy boats approached 6 U.S. military vessels in a, quote, dangerous and harassing manner, end quote, in international waters on Wednesday. The alleged incident occurred in the North Arabian Gulf during U.S. Navy exercises that also involved U.S. Army helicopters. The U.S. military said the Iranian ships came as close as 10 yards to the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Maui, despite multiple warnings over bridge-to-bridge radio and blast from the horns and other signaling equipment on the U.S. ships. The incident ended after about an hour when Iranian ships left. There were no immediate reports on the confrontation in Iranian media. This is according to Reuters. Number 9, California giving cash to immigrants ineligible for federal coronavirus payments. California Governor Gavin Newsom, Democrat, announced Wednesday that his state would give cash payments to immigrants living in the country illegally. California has an estimated 2 million undocumented immigrants who paid more than $2.5 billion in state and local taxes last year, but aren't eligible for checks under the $2.2 trillion coronavirus stimulus package Congress approved last month. Newsom said California would use a mix of money from taxpayers and charitable donors to provide 150,000 undocumented adults with $500 each during the pandemic. Quote, "We feel a deep sense of gratitude for people that are in fear of deportations that are still addressing essential needs of tens of millions of Californians," end quote, Newsom said. This is according to CNBC. Number 10, 32 Rohingya refugees died on a ship that drifted for weeks. Bangladesh Coast Guard officials said Thursday that at least 32 ethnic Rohingya died on a ship that drifted for weeks as coronavirus lockdowns in Malaysia and Thailand prevented the vessel from finding refuge. Quote, "They were at sea for about 2 months and were starving," end quote, a Bangladesh Coast Guard official told Reuters. The ship was brought to shore late Wednesday with 396 survivors on board. The refugees, all Muslim minority Rohingya, were trying to flee Buddhist majority Myanmar, but appeared destined to be sent back. One of the survivors told a reporter the group had been turned away from Malaysia twice, and a human rights group said more boats carrying Rohingya refugees probably remained adrift. This is according to Reuters. That's 10 things you need to know today for Thursday, April 18th, 2020. This has been What Makes You Smarter. I hope everyone's doing reasonably well out there. Take care of yourselves. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag, What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here. If you like what you hear, I encourage you to follow What Makes You Smarter on social media. Find it on Facebook at What Makes You Smarter, Instagram at What Makes You Smarter, Twitter at SmarterWhat, and YouTube. Username Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Smarter podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Smarter podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. My personal favorite, learn with me on my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag, What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time for What Makes You Famous. Support What Makes You Smarter podcast using the PayPal, paypal.me/Keys Dan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Smarter is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for